Introducing the new Land Rover Defender. It has an iconic shape that never fails to make an impact. Made for adventure, the Defender will stay composed whatever the day throws at you. And if you venture off the beaten track, it remains assured, no matter the circumstances. Designed with purpose and tough enough to take on any unexpected surprises. The Defender is as at home, on the road, as it is off.
At individual times for extra travel and absorption when needed. The Defender Octa sticks with height-adjustable air springs, which can give up to 323 mils of ground clearance for off-roading, and there's extra underbody protection there as well. Track width has been increased through bespoke control arms, and that makes space for these 275 wide tyres on forged 20-inch wheels under those bulging widened guards. Now, it's going to be pretty easy to pick one of these Octas out in the traffic in comparison to a regular Defender. Firstly, up the front here, we've got a bit of a different grille treatment going on. This is the Edition 1 model here. This is the one that everyone's going a bit crazy for, I think. This grille design is quite different. It's also a lot bigger because this 4.4 litre twin turbo engine, it's smaller than the 5 litre supercharged one, but it makes more power, makes more torque, and I'm going to bet that it draws a lot more air in and needs a lot of cooling as well. Now, the other thing you're going to spot when you see this car is the wheels and the tires. Let's have a look. Now, these 20-inch wheels, I reckon they look awesome, and they're wrapped in these Goodyear DuraTrack 3-ply sidewall tires as well. Now, you've got a choice of 3 different tires with this car. You've got these being the most aggressive option from the factory. You've also got another all-terrain from BF Goodrich. Plus, you've also got a Michelin, more of a highway terrain on 22-inch wheels. Now, I reckon these 20s would be the go. Unfortunately, you can't go smaller than 20 inches. And that is because behind here, we've got bigger brakes. These are 400mm Brembo 6-piston monoblocks. They're a really, really big brake. And when you look in there, even though these are big 20s, there's not much space for clearance. But that's going to be important, I reckon, when we start driving this thing pretty hard off-road. We'll see what that's like a little bit later. The other thing to talk about, of course, is suspension. Now, there's a lot to talk about here in this regard. It's actually got a really interesting backstory that has an Australian flavour to it. But this is what Land Rover calls 6D suspension. It's hydraulic, it's interlinked. You've got dampers that have their own semi-active controls in there. They've accumulators. There's a lot of technology going on here, which really underpins why this vehicle is going for off-road and on-road performance at the same time. The next big change for the Defender Octa is the suspension, with Land Rover using something they call 6D dynamic suspension. This is a high-pressure hydraulic system that is fully interlinked at all 4 corners, and it can effectively control body roll without the need of an anti-roll bar. Now, this is also connected to semi-active dampers, which can be adjusted to add additional body control on different surfaces, and it can also control front to rear pitch at the same time. This system is the latest generation of technology, which has been recently used by the likes of Mercedes-Benz, McLaren and Rivian, but originated as an Australian invention some years ago, and was used originally by Toyota and Lexus, and it was termed KDSS back then. Now, another exterior design element here is this feature which Land Rover calls chopped carbon. You've also got Defender written there. You've got the same style on the front as you do here on the side. I think it looks pretty tasteful actually, because this thing isn't emblazoned with things like badges and logos and all of that sort of thing. It's more about the width and the stance of the vehicle. But one last thing that you will notice on these Octas is this little guy here. Now, this is the reference to diamonds being luxurious, but also very tough and hard. This is actually made out of sandblasted aluminium, and you can feel it. It's kind of cool, actually. It's got a little bit more interest to it than just a regular old plastic bit of trim. Now, finally, at the back of this Defender Octa, of course, you've got a full-size spare on the back. You've got that same flat design that you've got with all Defender 110s, and of course, a fantastic departure angle. Now, it hasn't been affected too much by the design of this exhaust, and Land Rover has done that intentionally to retain the off-road prowess of this vehicle. And of course, you've got a couple of recovery points at the back here for pulling out all your mates at the beach. And if you get stuck by accident yourself, there is one at the front as well. On the inside, Defender gets a new sporty seat setup with adjustable bolstering and a so-called body and soul integration with the sound system. There is a unique range of colours and different materials inside the Defender Octa, and First Edition also gets a special chopped carbon material inside and out. Otherwise, the interior of the Defender Octa carries on with the same elegant design overall, and there's good levels of comfort and practicality in here, as well as plenty of storage. When you test drive a car overseas, quite often you're a little bit hesitant to really put a final verdict on the vehicle, because when it gets to Australia, in our conditions, things are often a bit different. But in South Africa, you remember that these two nations were once joined together many millions of years ago, and conditions here are very similar to what we get in Australia. So I'm driving along what I would probably call a regular old outback dirt track at the moment. It's a bit rough and rutted, there's some bumps and bruises and that sort of thing around the place, but it's smooth in sections, and I've got to say it shows off a really fantastic potential that this Defender Octa has. It may not be the most scalpel sharp thing to drive on blacktop, but I think the real appeal of this thing is what it's like to drive in these kind of situations. And it's not just about the confidence you get when you're driving it, but it's just enjoyment as well. As you move along, go into Octa mode, change down a couple of gears, start to punch things along, and this thing offers huge amounts of performance. Yes, that old 5-litre V8 was pretty potent, great fun, and offered a lot of performance and character. This is different in terms of its character, but much more aggressive and responsive in the way it puts power down. And when it's matched to this suspension that seems to have black magic in the way it controls the body mostly, but adds in a nice amount of suppleness and control over rough surfaces, you've got a huge potential for performance here. So yes, this thing is outrageously expensive. You're looking at shelling out another $100,000 on top of a Defender V8, which is already, in my opinion, a very expensive Land Rover Defender. But in saying that, you can see where that money goes. It's more powerful, it's more potent, it's more responsive, it's more capable, and it's much more fun to drive at high speeds along dirt. Now, we haven't explored everything just yet. We haven't got to the closed circuit where we can really start to play around with this thing a bit. But in terms of a car that offers great levels of on-road performance, but then has this real ace up the sleeve of off-road composure and confidence, this thing is quite a special car. It's not as outright noisy or bellicose, I suppose, as what you get with a Range Rover Sport SVR or a G63 AMG. It's not like thunderclaps of exhaust noise, but it's got a nice earthy sort of rumble about it. It definitely means business. One thing it is perhaps missing, I suppose, is a button where you can turn the exhaust onto loud mode and onto don't piss off the neighbors mode as well for when you need it. But that is accessed instead through the various driving modes that you've got here. And of course, shifting this shifter across to sports. So while huge amounts of horsepower and torque might be a big appeal for this vehicle, I think it's what's underneath the body that is the real important stuff for this Defender Octa. It really is the suspension, I think, that makes this thing work overall. And you can tell that Land Rover hasn't really cut any corners in the development of this vehicle. It's got different control arms, it's got different knuckles, it's obviously got the different dampers with all of that hydraulic control, and then it's tuned really nicely to give you that really nice balance, I think, between control but also comfort and just the confidence that you get through the steering, through the ride, through the feedback that you're getting. And it's especially the case when you're driving on dirt tracks like this. It's bloody awesome. All right, we're driving on sand in this Defender Octa, and surprise, surprise, or really no surprise, I think, this thing is hugely capable on soft sand. Even though it's a heavy rig and we've got 20-inch wheels, not normally the combination that you'd want on sand. I'd love something with, 17s or 16s even, but they're not going to clear the massive brakes on this Octa, obviously. But we've got huge amounts of power. We've got a great traction control system.